Hi guys, it's Bryony, and today I'm going to be talking about a topic that's slightly more serious than some of the other topics I've done. I'm going to be talking very candidly in this video about what it's like to go to A&E for suicidal thoughts. I've got a couple of things to say before I start talking properly. First of all, this experience is very personal to me. I can't promise that it will be the same for you. Obviously it's going to depend on your hospital, your current treatment plan, what your kind of mental health is, because obviously no two people have the same mental health. And also I will be talking about suicide and self-harm in this video, so the trigger warning does come with those topics, obviously. So stop. So if you're likely to be triggered by those topics, then please stop watching, or alternatively I will also timestamp in the description the parts where I don't talk quite so graphically about those topics and the parts that are only about my actual experience in the hospital, so that if you're currently going through a difficult time and just need some advice about what's going to happen if you go to hospital, then you can still watch those parts and hopefully not be triggered. Really, I'm doing this video because I want to help to open up the discussion about what it's like to go to A&E when you're struggling with suicidal thoughts, because obviously when you're looking for help online and stuff, lots of websites say, look, if you can't control your thoughts and you're worried that you're in danger to yourself, then go to an emergency department. But there's rarely any information online about what will happen when you go to that emergency department. I had no idea what to expect, and for me it was very stressful. Struggling with your mental health anyway is a very stressful and very intense and scary experience, and hospitals are very scary as well. So to go to hospital when you're struggling with your mental health and not having any idea about what might happen, that's like 4 times as scary. Really, I just want to kind of be able to show people that it doesn't have to be scary and this is what you might expect if you go because you need some help. And yeah, I've got my coffee, I'm just gonna talk. This next part does carry a trigger warning. I'm going to be talking about my experience with mental health and my experiences with self-harm and suicide, so yeah, stop watching here and skip to later in the video if you are worried you'll be triggered by that. During the first term of my second year at university, things started to get bad, but I didn't realise straight away. So I was very stressed at the time. I had lots of coursework to do. I was dealing with some issues in friendship groups and in relationships and all these sorts of things. I was doing loads of extracurricular stuff. I was managing different groups and stuff. It was all very stressful, and I know that stress can trigger mental health difficulties in me. I know that I get very overwhelmed very quickly with stress. I was self-harming regularly, which is something I hadn't done since I was about 15, so immediately I knew, oh okay, that's probably not great, but it's fine, I'm fine. So I kind of pushed it to the back of my mind and didn't really think about it and just sort of tried to get on with my day-to-day life. And then I started to feel extremely suicidal. I was constantly thinking about suicide. It was always at the forefront of my mind. If I wasn't sort of playing out the scenario of it happening in my head, I was thinking about how I would do it. I was researching how much paracetamol I'd have to take to kill myself. I was researching what would happen if I didn't take enough to kill myself and then I went to hospital and they tried to treat me, like what would happen. All those things, you know, in hindsight, enormous red flags. Like if that's the sort of thing you're doing, like go and get help immediately. That's not normal, it's not healthy, and there is something wrong with you. Like, not in a kind of something wrong with you, but you know, you need and deserve help. So, you know, I didn't see that. I just kind of thought, oh, it's fine, like it's no big deal, I'm just dealing with stuff, it's fine, I'll be fine, whatever. And then one evening I remember I was sat in my bedroom at my desk with my fairy lights on, I had some candles, I was playing some sad music, and I just had an empty paracetamol box on my desk. And I had all the pills laid out, scattered out. I was counting them, I was just kind of feeling them in my fingers and putting them in my mouth and seeing how they'd feel. I had my blades and stuff out, and I was very close to killing myself that night, or, you know, attempting to. So I woke up the next day, I went along to all my plans as normal. I then ended up having to leave one of my commitments early because I was going to go home and kill myself. I excused myself, said I wasn't feeling great, went home and sat at my desk again with all the medication, and I was fully planning on taking it all and like being done with it. I was just like, I just can't, what's the point? Like there is, like, what's stopping me? There's, you know, no point to any of this. Part of me though was still googling what to do if you feel suicidal, like how do I get help, where do I go, what happens if you go to A&E because you're feeling suicidal, and everything was just saying go to hospital. There was nothing saying this will happen when you go to hospital, but everyone was saying go to hospital. And then something in me was just like, this is fucked, you need to go and get help now, this is bad. And I don't know why, but I listened to that. There was just something, it was just, you know, really intense. It was just like, go and get help now. So I just kind of like stood up and I was like, okay, fuck, this is bad. I walked out of my bedroom very calmly, like nothing was wrong. Walked into my living room where my housemates were, and they were like, oh, hey Bryony, how's it going? And I just said, I need to go to hospital now. And they were like, are you okay? And I was like, if I don't get to hospital now, I will kill myself. So we phoned my friend who drove me to hospital. And yeah, that's kind of how I ended up going to hospital. So I walked in with my friend, and there was a lady at the desk, and I just said, I need help. I'm having a mental health crisis, and I need to see someone. And she was like, okay, no worries, if you go and sit in the waiting room, someone will come and see you shortly. So I was like, okay, cool. Within about 15 minutes we saw the triage nurse, who's like the first nurse you see when you go to hospital, to A&E. So I went in to see her. She was like, oh, okay, what's going on? And I said, I feel very suicidal and I didn't feel like I could keep myself safe. And she was like, okay, no worries. She gave me a few leaflets that were things like how to deal with self-harm and what it's like to go to hospital, and, you know, things like that. And it was all, you know, the leaflets were, I won't lie, they weren't very helpful, but it was nice to kind of just have something. She took my description as well, my physical description, so that if I ran away she would be able to tell, and they could find me. And that was that. I was just told to go and wait back in the waiting room. So I then wait in the waiting room to see, I think it's called the psychiatric liaison team. Honestly, just being in a hospital situation for me was very helpful, because I felt like I was out of immediate danger. Just kind of being there made me feel safe. I was like, right now I can't hurt myself. Right now there are so many people around me and they're all looking out for me, and I cannot do any harm to myself in this situation. And that made me feel safer and calmer. It got me out of the immediate kind of, you're in danger, here's everything you need to end your life, and just kind of made me feel more comfortable. You know, I was just there like, okay, cool, this is safe, there are people here who are professionals and who are going to help. Right now you can't hurt yourself, and that's good. So that in itself was very helpful to me and made me feel better. So I was waiting for a few hours to see the psychiatric liaison team. They called me in, and at this point I didn't know what was going to happen. I was like, are they going to section me? Am I going to be locked up? What's going to happen? So I was called into this room. I thought, oh, they're going to put me in some padded cell with these people in like white coats. That's literally not what happened. It was a very normal room. The walls were a kind of really neutral colour. They had posters on about dealing with stress, and there were like 3 really comfortable armchair sofa things. And so this lady called me in, and it was her and this fairly old guy, and they were both dressed so normally. I thought they were going to be in like suits and like the little doctor's coats and stuff. They were just dressed in like jeans and a t-shirt, and that made me feel more comfortable. She introduced herself and said, this is my colleague, he's just going to be taking some notes, I'm just going to ask you some questions. Then she asked me a lot of questions about exactly what was going on, how I was feeling, why I'd rocked up today, what my history of mental health was, what help I was currently receiving. Now at this point I wasn't receiving any help for my mental health at all. I hadn't seen anyone, I didn't think I needed help. Obviously I did. So it was kind of just me sitting there saying, this is how I'm feeling, this is how long it's been going on for, please fucking help me. Like, so after about an hour of that, just kind of having a conversation and getting it off my chest, she went away with her colleague and was like, we'll be back in a little bit, just sit here, you can invite your friend back in if you want, just you know, wait here, we'll be back in a minute. So she was gone for about half an hour, I think. She had this little meeting in another room with the guy that was in there to come up with a sort of care plan, a sort of post A&E plan for me. So they came back out and they explained it to me, and they basically said what they wanted me to do was go to my doctor. They said they would get in touch with my doctor to tell them I had been in A&E for suicidal thoughts, and that I needed to arrange an appointment with them. She told me to go to my university wellbeing centre as well, to look into getting therapy and help. I was also told that they would contact my university welfare and like protection services just to let them know what had happened. Gave me loads of letters and leaflets and stuff, and I won't lie, they did give me one leaflet that was like, breathing when you're stressed, and I was like, are you fucking joking me? Like, But in general, what they gave me was very helpful, and what they told me to do was useful. So at the time, I left the room, and they were like, okay, bye. And I was like, oh, no, I'm just going home. They were like, oh, yeah, no, just sort of do all this tomorrow, go get some sleep, you'll be right. So I was like, oh, okay. And kind of immediately I was like, is that it? Like, they, like, I just came here because I was going to kill myself, and they're literally just going to tell me to go home. Like, what? But actually looking back on it now, that was exactly what I needed. I needed to go to a safe space, be seen by people who were professionals and who could tell me this is what to do next, and then to go home and go to sleep. I woke up the next day. I went to all my university classes like nothing had happened. Going to hospital doesn't, for, you know, a few hours because you're feeling suicidal, doesn't then stop you feeling suicidal the next day. I still felt suicidal. I still felt shit. But I went to all my classes the next day like nothing had happened, just sort of rolling along, you know, doing all my work, being really out of it actually, and just sort of not really knowing what to do with myself. I started completely freaking out, just feeling really out of it and like very overwhelmed, because obviously I had so many things to do. I'd been phoned twice at this point by a welfare counsellor at my university who was basically like, we need to see you and discuss what has happened, so we can keep an eye on you and make sure that it doesn't happen again. I'd also had an email from my doctor's surgery being like, can you book an appointment with us? I'd had to go and see wellbeing as well, and then I just kind of felt, this is too much, like this is all happening so quickly and I don't know what to do, and so many people want to meet with me and I don't know what to do. I went to see my favourite lecturer. I walked in and I just broke down in tears, and I explained everything that had happened. She was so lovely. She helped me get in touch with wellbeing, just to sort of check that everything was okay and just to keep an eye on my progress. And so, you know, all this happened. I was meeting with so many people, and it was a very stressful week, I won't lie to you. But afterwards, things just got exponentially better. Like, I was put on a list for therapy. I had some emergency appointments with wellbeing as well, with some kind of emergency counsellors that were just, they're called like crisis counsellors. You know, welfare kept an eye on me, my tutor kept an eye on me, just everyone was very supportive and very lovely. I got therapy, and sort of things just started to get a little bit better. My doctor then, a few months later, put me on medication, and that medication at first made me feel worse. In general, it was very helpful, and I'm still on it, and I think it's great, and it's absolutely helped my mental health a lot. But after a week or so of being on it, I spent a day sat on my floor. I was sat there with my medication, wanting to take it all and just be done with it. And then my friends came over, drove me to hospital and sat with me, which was so lovely of them. And the same sort of thing happened, except this time it was slightly different because obviously I was already receiving help. Again, I went into the triage nurse. She asked me a few questions, told me to see psychiatric liaison. I went to see psychiatric liaison after a few hours again. They just sort of asked me a few questions again, but they were like, you're already receiving help, aren't you? And I was like, yes. And they were like, can you think of anything else that we can do for you? And I said, honestly, I just needed to be out of the house and in a place that I felt safe. And I know that last time I was here, I felt safe and I felt like I couldn't do any harm to myself. They then sort of had a chat again, and they came back and they were like, okay, you just need to keep on with the therapy. We'll get in touch with the therapist. You should get an emergency appointment with her and your doctor, just to kind of discuss things. But remember that in time the medication will hopefully start to improve. And then I just sort of looked at them and I was like, am I a time waster? Because for me, that was one of the biggest things I felt when I was in hospital, because you see all those signs everywhere that are like, do you really need to be in A&E? Are you taking care away from someone who needs it? And I was like, I haven't actually made an attempt on my life yet. Why am I here? Why am I here? And she said to me, you are one of about 200 people that's been here this month alone, like for the same reason. There are so many people who've been here because they're feeling suicidal, and it's the right thing to do. Not only is it easier and healthier for us to save your life now, that's what we're here for. We're not people who can save lives and resuscitate people, but we can help people like you who are kind of on the brink. The way she kind of spoke to me was just like, you don't need to feel guilty about being here. Like, we are here to support people like you. Like, people come here all the time because they need help, because they need some advice from people like us. So yeah, kind of looking back now, I think it was really helpful for me to go. Obviously, when people had told me before, you should go to hospital when you feel suicidal, I was very apprehensive. I don't know what I was expecting, but I thought I was going to get locked up. I thought I would be sectioned. I thought I would be put on some register, and that's just not the case. Like, they are literally just there to listen to what's going on with you and try and support you through it and try and get you help once you leave the hospital. For me, the hospital was just a place where I was safe and where I couldn't do any harm to myself. and then they gave me advice on what to do afterwards that ended up getting me here, you know, in a really good place where I'm comfortable to talk about stuff like this that's happened to me, and also just in a really good place with my mental health. You know, I'm in recovery, I'm doing really well, and I think if I hadn't gone to hospital both those times, who knows where I would be. Like, I don't think I would still be here. I really hope that my experience can show you that if you do need that help, it's not scary, and you don't have to go there thinking the worst is going to happen, because really, you are not the only person who's been in your situation, and while they might not be able to solve all your problems immediately, they can give you advice on what to do, and they can make you feel safe when you might be a danger to yourself. And for me, that was really important. So yeah, that was my experience of going to hospital for suicidal thoughts. You need to go to hospital for your mental health. That should not be something to be ashamed of. I'm not ashamed of it happening. I am thankful that I had the support available to me, and I'm really grateful to be in a situation now where I can speak about it and feel happy and healthy and in a really good place. And I only hope that talking about my experience, if you might be in a similar situation to the one I was in, that hearing me speak about my experience can help you feel more comfortable going to hospital should you need to. And obviously, you know, I hope none of you need to go to hospital for your mental health. I hope that your mental health is perfect, but that's not the case often. So yeah, and obviously, you know, like I said, my experience will be different to those of other people, but this is what happened for me, and it was useful and it was helpful, and I am grateful that it happened. I'm not grateful that I felt suicidal, but I'm grateful that I felt the strength to go and get help, and that it got me to the position I'm in today. So yes, thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions about what I went through, then feel free to drop them in the comments, or drop me a message on Twitter, and I hope you all have a fabulous rest of your day. Ciao for now.